interviewing John Quinley. I know his grandchildren. He will teach us a little bit about how helping other people can help you in exchange. So, I hope you enjoy. Today we have John Quinley. We asked his friends about what they would say about him, and they said a guy who, if you need help, you'll help. Quickly tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Been in Salina all my life. Went through all the Salina schools. Even went to college here in Salina. Out of college, my first real job was with Great Plains Manufacturing, and for the first 5 years I was credit manager. For the next 25 years I was marketing manager for the Land Pride division of Great Plains, which started in 1986. And the last 10 years of my career there, I was president of the Land Pride division. So I retired there after 40 years and retired 3 years ago today. So now I get to do whatever I want to do. I'm involved in several boards, and I mow a lot of yards for people. Don't get paid for any of them, but that's okay. It gives me something to do.
Yeah. So while you were working at Great Plains, what were some lessons you learned?
I think you learn a lot on the job. I think the greatest thing that I learned was how to interact with people, how to treat people, how I wanted to be treated. I learned from a great mentor at Great Plains, the owner. I feel like he quietly mentored all of us in the way he conducted business and the way he treated all the employees. I think if I did anything good at my job, it was to tell employees how I appreciated them and our customers appreciated them.
So you obviously learned a lot from working, but who do you mow for, and have you learned anything from them?
No, I learned that just being able to do good stuff for good people is a benefit to me. We have some rental property that I mow. I mow a little old lady's house that I've known for almost most of my life. I mow my kids' yards because they have big yards and they all work and take care of kids. And if I can give them more hours in the day to enjoy the funner parts of life, I'll do it. And I mow my son's office building yard, and I enjoy it. I put on my headphones and listen to great music.
I know you have grandkids. They're all really cool. Any lessons you've learned from hanging out with them?
You know, hanging around with my grandkids, and I've heard other people say it too, is that you should have your grandkids first and your own kids later. When you have your own kids, you're maybe starting off in a marriage, maybe starting new jobs, you're trying to forge your career, you're trying to forge your life, you're trying to forge your marriage, trying to raise kids the best you can. I look back and now I think that I spent enough time with my kids, and I think I did. I think hanging around with my grandkids has taught me patience with young kids. The things you say to them, they may take differently than what you intend, and if it hurts them, it can last a while. I have learned a lot from grandkids. And I think the biggest thing is patience and listening to them and listening to what I say to them.
You've heard a little bit about your current life. What was your life like when you were 14?
In some ways, not great. I came from divorced parents, and my mom was trying to raise 6 kids, and money was tight, and then my parents didn't have the best relationship, even apart, didn't have some of the best relationships with their kids. I was fortunate, like most kids, to have some really good friends, and those friends had some really good parents. Stayed on the right path because of some of those parents.
So you talk about outside of school, but what was inside of school like? Were you mostly hanging around those same friends?
Yeah, pretty much. I didn't take high school as seriously as I thought I should. At the time, it was fun. It had a terrible teaching method. We would get a list of syllabus for the class, and if you wanted to get an A, you did this, a B, you did this, a C, you did this. So I could goof off for 7 weeks and do enough work in 2 weeks to get a B. Oh, great, I got a B, It's a report card. It's a grade. But I was the kind of kid who really needed a kick in the pants. I got through school. My mom didn't necessarily challenged me with schoolwork, and really neither did the school. I needed that kick in the pants. And so then when I went to college, I didn't know how to study. My first year of college at Marymount, I got kicked out. My first semester was a B, a C, a D, and an F. They put me on academic probation. My second semester was all C's, and I thought, okay, I'm coming up in the world. And I get a letter a few weeks after school saying you can't come back. I dropped my paintbrush. I went up to Marymount College. I met with the president, the dean of students, my advisor for several different times. And long story short, they let me back in, and I had to take some of those classes over. Started kicking myself in the seat. My advisor, who was the one who gave me the F, is the one who fought to get me back in school. So I owe him a debt of gratitude. And I attacked school like a person should. I had fun with it. I learned something. I got better grades. But my high school career in Salina wasn't good. It's changed now for the better. But I still think there's certain kids who will attack school, certain kids who need a little bit of kick in the pants, and certain kids who need a lot of help. And I think there's a lot of good teachers out there who try to do that. Their day is so filled up with other things besides trying to teach a kid that I think it makes for a challenge for them.
This obviously taught you that, hey, I am going to have to work for things. And you might have learned that before that point. That definitely helped you realize that. Is that true? Or?
Yeah, I think when I started working at Great Plains, things were somewhat structured, kind of did, I knew what my jobs every day were to do, and I started attacking those things. And then I thought, okay, how can I make this project better? How can I make that project better? That's what helped me excel at my job. And if I would have had that type of mentality in high school, life probably wouldn't have turned out any different, but I might feel better about my high school career.
Did you keep those same friends throughout those years?
Once I got to college, and there were about 8 of us from South High that went to Marymount College. Only one of those people stayed there all 4 years, and that was me. So I'm still in touch with some of those, a little bit distant, but closer friends now are those that I went to college with.
You talked about how in high school you goofed off a little bit. Were you playing basketball, or was it because you were trying to find a passion, or?
No, I think it was not realizing what an education meant to me, and would mean to me later on in life. I think there's things that you do as a young person that you don't really know what the repercussions are. A lot of kids do. Some people just don't sit down and think about it, and I didn't. The fun part of my life was when I was at school. Once I became 16 and started working a part-time job, both of those got me out of the house. That wasn't very fun. So it was maybe my escape. But again, I thought during algebra class, why am I learning this stuff? Today I still ask myself, why are we learning algebra if you're not going into some field for that? But I think it helps train your brain. There's a lot of things you learn in life that you don't really use later, but I think all of that helps train your brain to be a stronger muscle, to be able to absorb more, so you can forget more when you get older.
All the stuff we learn, it might not be practical, but it is helpful.
I think to some extent. I think once a person gets into college, again, learning about many facets of the world is great. I think it extends the life of a college career that maybe doesn't need to be that long. If you're going into business and marketing like I did, why do I really need to learn about the different religions of the world? Yes, it was interesting, but it cost me money. And did it help me in my job? No. Has it really helped me in my life? I forgot all I learned. But again, at the time it was interesting. It probably helped exercise my brain. But with today's college costs, was it worth paying for?
Did you have any main passions in high school?
Not really. I quit playing sports at about 9th grade because I needed to work. I needed, our family had no money, and I needed to earn some money. And who knows if I was good enough to play sports? Maybe I wasn't. I did play a lot of town team basketball throughout high school. But I didn't have a passion, and I think that's important for young kids. Sometimes you don't know what your passion is, and certainly I didn't really know what I was going to do for a career in life. I wanted to be in some kind of business, thought maybe banking. I didn't have a passion, and didn't have maybe coming from a divorced family, and not, hanging around with my parents because we didn't. Somebody to teach me golf or fishing or motorcycling or whatever it might be to help build a passion. I think every kid has a passion. Every person has a passion. Sometimes they just don't know what it is.
Would you wish you would have tried to find a passion?
Looking back, I don't know that it hurt me in any way not having a passion. Um, I think to some degree, one of my passions throughout life has been to work. I'm not a person to sit around. Um, Again, I've been retired for 3 years, and I haven't. To sit down with you right now is a little bit unusual for me to sit down at 12:50 in the afternoon. I'm usually doing something. So I think for most of my adult life, my passion has been to work, to volunteer, to help others. But I think there's passions you can learn as a young person that can help you through life with hobbies and interests and whatever it might be. But for a long time, for about 45 years, my passion was running. I ran about every day, for 45 years. Don't do that anymore because of a knee problem, probably because of all those years of running. But I like to stay active in a lot of ways. So I think it's good to find a passion at some point, because it can help make your life interesting.
You've talked a little bit about how you had friends in high school and then some of them followed you to college, but then you mostly stayed with the friends in college and the friend groups changed. Do you remember any of them distinctively making an impact on your life, other than having their parents help you? Or is there anybody that sticks out you remember the most that was like, yeah, I don't think I'd be where I am without them?
Not from high school friends, I don't think so. A lot of them are great people. They grew up to be great people. But my dearest friends, I guess you would say, are the ones from college. Um, had a lot of good working colleagues that we didn't socialize all that much, but when you work for a company for 40 years, you get to know a lot of the same people for a long time. I was able to work with some fantastic people that I do call friends, and we'll communicate now and then still. But dearest friends really are from college, and I think all those people that you spend some time with throughout your life, be it my friends or my friends' parents, I think they all help you forge your life if you pay attention to them. I had friends who got off on the wrong path and did the wrong things, and fortunately I never did. Not saying I didn't do anything wrong, but I never did drugs. I never drank too much. Don't think I ever stole anything. Um, so I tried to be a good person, and I think I learned a lot of that from some of those friends and some of those parents. But I think all those people help shape you as you get older every year.
Yeah, that reminds me of something my dad always tells me. It was a quote, but I don't want to misquote it or give it to the wrong person, so I won't go into that because I don't remember exactly who. You become like the 5 people you spend the most time with, and I always thought that makes sense, and I always, before 7th grade, I was always like, that doesn't make sense, and then I realized it really was making effects on me in 7th grade, so I saw that being put into effect, so I really can relate to your story a little bit. So, do you have any questions for me?
Why are you doing this?
Throughout middle school, I've been wanting some advice, and I figured why not share it? Except not everyone wants advice from their parents, because if they're always there, sometimes you can be like, no, that's not true, because I'm a teenager, so some people, or people who their parents aren't as prominent, or they can also come here for advice if they need it, and just so people can be themselves if they want to. If they need help on something, I'm hoping to give them advice to get them through that here.
Yeah, good for you. I think,
Thank you.
all kids need some kind of advice. All people need some kind of advice. You never get to the point where you can't learn something.
Hmm.
And I do think when your parents tell you something, sometimes, I don't know if I agree with you, Dad. And to hear some of that same advice from somebody else, and it might even be somebody your age,
Hmm.
not necessarily an adult. Sometimes it just feels different, sounds different, um, makes sense from a different viewpoint. So I think what you're doing is neat.
Yeah, thank you. So, for our last question of the day, if you had a billboard you wanted your 14-year-old self to see, what would it say?
Grow up to care about people.
Do you want to give us a little bit of why you would choose that?
I think we all need to be surrounded by people in some way, shape, or form. When you're in school, you're around kids and adults. When you get a job, you're around people. And no matter what people show on their face or sound in their voice, there's people out there that maybe go home to sadness for whatever reason or boredom. And I think the more that we all can just be nice to people, recognizing them throughout the day and telling people to have a nice day, to really volunteering in some way to help people. We all need each other to make the world go round, and it makes you feel good to help people. It's good. It's healthy.
Well, thank you for sharing all this with us today, John. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
You too, Corbin.